So once again, we're talking about masterworks of various institutions and museum collections, and we're going to go back to or revisit the Newark Museum of Art. Newark Museum has really quite an interesting collection for a number of reasons, but we've already talked a little bit about the sculpture, where they have one of the very finest Vajrayogini sculptures in the world, done in silver. But now we're going to look at some paintings. They have 6 paintings which we've chosen because of their uniqueness, because of their quality or rarity. And the first one we're going to look at is an image of Sakya Pandita. Now, this Sakya Pandita that we're looking at belongs to a set of paintings that is not related to Sakya. Sakya Pandita Kunga Gyaltsen is famous for being the grandson of Sachen Kunga Ningpo, the founder of the Sakya school. And Sakya Pandita was very famous as a scholar and for being one of the first Tibetan Buddhist teachers to have serious political and religious interactions with the Mongols of the north, who were soon to overwhelm China and usher in the Yuan period, or the Yuan dynasty of China. But this figure and this composition of Sakya Pandita is quite special because it appears to be so far from what we know from looking at comparables. It is the finest example of this composition of Sakya Pandita as part of a set of the incarnations of the Panchen Lama of the Gelug school. And this was a set of paintings that was originally conceived of and originally drawn, it's believed to be at Nartang Monastery. Nartang is just to the west of Shigatse, and it was considered an early Kadam monastery. And they also did art, and they did woodblock carving for books. But this particular painting of Sakya Pandita is really the finest example of all of the different sets following this model created at Nartang. So this is a very beautiful painting. The style is wonderful. It's done very much in a Shigatse Tashilompo style. Now, the second painting is much earlier. The Sakya Pandita is, it's going to be really 18th century or early 19th. But then the following painting is an Amitayas. It's a West Tibet, very likely to be 14th century, and depicting the Pure Land of the Buddha Amitayas, not to be confused with Amitabha. Now, there's also an inscription that runs along the bottom. It appears to be a relatively large painting. I'm not sure about the measurements, but there's an inscription along the bottom which may give us a better idea of the dating and the location and who possibly the sponsor of the painting was. Now, the third painting is of Amitabha in his Pure Land, and again, this could very well be 14th century painting, and it's been well documented by Valerie Reynolds, who used to be a curator back in the a few decades back at Newark Museum, and she published on this particular painting and a couple of others because it's unique, because it's painted on a plaid fabric. A plaid, like a typical Western type of plaid fabric, and that's really unusual for this time. And although the painting is West Tibetan in origin, so somehow there was a connection, probably with Central Asia, possibly, and getting plaid colored fabrics from the West. Now, the fourth painting is extremely large format, and it's of a Ngor abbot, an abbot of Ngor Monastery, and these were often memorial paintings, and there's quite a number of them. On the HAR website, we actually have a page where we only have the large format paintings in this of the subject of the previous abbots of Ngor being commemorated, most likely at their funerary rituals within a few weeks, months, and a year or so of their passing. And it's very common to have these memorial very large format memorial paintings made. Now, the fifth painting we're looking at here is really wonderful from the point of view of sacred geography and site locations, because this is a painting depicting the first monastery of Tibet. It's called Samye, Samye Chokorling. And how you can actually really identify it is because there are 4 special stupas or chaitya. In the upper left, there's a red stupa. Then to the side is a black stupa. Down below is green, and then there's a white. Now these stupas might change some colors over time, but basically the red and the black are maybe the most famous, and the white. Anyway, it's a very interesting depiction because, as you know, or as most people might know, Samye Monastery was mostly destroyed during the Cultural Revolution, and there was only a few black and white photos taken prior to that time, so it's not always clear where different temples and structures were within the compound, within the confines of this walled monastery temple complex. Now, granted, the wall was not particularly high; it was more like a wall of a residential home where you're not actually too afraid of break-ins. But it was a wall nonetheless, and this painting shows that. So very, very interesting, very, very interesting from the point of view of studying these locations prior to our time when they were destroyed. Now, the last painting is very interesting because it's of the Panchen Lama, and this Panchen Lama has surrounding him several other teachers who are incarnations of previous incarnations of the Panchen Lamas. Now, what's really interesting about this is the composition, because prior to this painting, it was not known to myself and others I consulted that there were sets of the Panchen Lama and previous incarnations in this style of composition and format. The quality of the drawing and the quality of the painting look very good, although at this time we only have access to a black and white painting. So it would be very curious, it'd be very great at some point to see a color copy of this painting or the painting in real life, and to see it more clearly, and to try and date it, and to see if there's some variation in terms of where it was painted, whether it was from a product of Tashilumpo Monastery in Shigatse, or whether or not it's coming from maybe Amdo region or even closer to Beijing, and also to get a sense of a date on it. So these 6 paintings are just a curator's selection. There are likely to be more paintings in Newark that we really just don't know about or haven't been published, and we just aren't familiar with any images of them at this time. But these are the 6. These are very interesting, and they have great stories. They have great style, and at least 3 of them come from sets of paintings. So we'll leave it there. You can press the like button, you can subscribe, you can join HAR on Patreon, and you can also make a donation on the homepage of Himalayan Art Resources.